And welcome everyone to Toad Learning Camp. Back by popular demand, we are going to talk to another uh, guest who has recently returned from Disney World. In fact, very recently returned. So Todd, did you just come from the airport today?
Feels like I did, but I actually got in Monday evening. So less than 48 hours ago.
So the last time we did this, I went over what I experienced when I went down. The first time we had Amy, one of Deb's clients, go over what she experienced, and she was there in July, right after they opened. I was there in September, a couple months later, and now Todd just returned was there this last weekend. And I was also there in December, but I didn't talk about that on our chats. So Todd, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience getting to Disney World?
Okay. I flew out of my local airport, which has two terminals, and I flew on Frontier, which uses the less frequented, smaller North terminal. So if you ever fly and connect through Detroit, it's probably on Delta in the nice swanky McNamara terminal with the monorail inside. Nope, this is 1970s haul everything, 3/4 of a mile. Not a lot of accessories in the airport. The airport itself was pretty empty, both passengers and employees. The ticketing agents and baggage people at the desk seemed to be on a skeleton crew. TSA was surprisingly efficient and no line. Here in Michigan, we still have restrictions on dining in places. So there were no restaurants that you could order food and sit and eat. You could only order to go. And only some of those locations were open, namely McDonald's, and that's it. Before boarding, we all got the little temperature scan to make sure we weren't running a temperature. And we were told when we check in for our flights that we had to wear face coverings the entire time we were in the airport and the entire time we were on the plane. The gate agent for the airline reiterated this about 18 times before anybody boarded. And after that, it was a flight as normal, except for the fact that Frontier decided that they were doing no service unless you absolutely wanted a bottle of water. They would sell you one, but there were no complimentary food, snacks, beverages, or anything else offered for purchase either.
How far in advance did they tell you that?
When we were sitting on the plane.
Wow. And just for reference, you flew down on Thursday midday?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm normally the type of person who gets to the airport 90 minutes before my flight, but it was at a weird time. So I was there 3 hours early. It took so long to check my bag that I only sat for about a half hour at the gate.
Wow.
So a little bit longer than normal.
How about screening with TSA?
They were quick, efficient, friendly. They ask you to pull down your mask to verify it matches your license, your passport, your entry ID. Other than that, it was business as usual.
And then you flew to Orlando, right?
Yes, MCO.
Okay.
They They seem to have things under control, at least the airport. Getting to and from the terminal to the main building was socially distanced by markers on the floor. Whoever makes those peel and stickers for the floor has made a fortune in Orlando alone. Every place has them. Whether it's Wendy's, the gas station, Walmart, Target, Panda Express, every square inch of Disney property, it seems, you know where 6 feet is. The baggage handling took a little bit longer than normal. I'm not sure if that's due to the construction or the fact that I was flying a budget airline, or if they have reduced baggage handlers right now. I'm not sure. It's also an odd time of day for me to fly. I usually fly first thing or last thing, not in the middle of the day. So that might skew my thoughts towards it a little bit because it's unusual for me.
So you had told me that level 1 in the B terminal was under construction. My last trip there, the rentals were not available on the B side. They had to go to the A side. Was that still the situation?
Yep, that is still the same. Whether it was rentals or ride share or anything, ground transportation on the beach side was totally closed, and everybody was funneled down to the A side. Even if you had to go down to the B carousel to get your luggage and then come back up and go across and down the A side.
Did you notice, I know you didn't use Magical Express, but did you notice if they were on the B side? Because they usually.
Normally they are. I did not notice them though.
Okay.
I did not notice a bunch of people going in a happy direction with their magic bands on. So I'm assuming they might have been. One thing that was definitely of note, because all of the rental services were only on the A side, every company's line was astronomically long. And even though there were the stickers and markings on the floor and signs to say keep your distance, and the PA made the announcement, nobody paid attention, and it was crammed and slow. One thing that Tracy and I discussed a little earlier is, which I didn't realize until we were talking about it, each of the rental agencies has a sign that says, if you're a member of their loyalty program, go out to the garage, to the express service area. And if you have your travel agent book your car for you, you can have your travel agent give them your number, and you can cut the line and go to the express service instead of wasting your time standing in line with rude people at the airport.
Yeah, when you do the car rental, you put in the membership number in there, and if you've got your account connected to your email or your cell phone number, they'll text you. In some cases, they'll text you what spot your car is in. Right, when just the same as Disney texting you when your room is ready. You'll get that with the car rental and can just walk right out there and get your car. So then where did you go from the airport? Did you go and check into the hotel, or did you go right to a park?
As soon as I turned my phone on, after we touched down, I got a text message from Disney saying that my room was ready and gave me the number. So I'm like, sweet. But I was going to a park because it's been exactly 1 year since I was at Disney World, so I wanted to get back as soon as I could. So I went to the Magic Kingdom.
How was your experience at Magic Kingdom? Since you were driving, you obviously parked out in the parking lot. Were the trams operating, and how was that experience?
All the trams are parked at the way far back where the Richard Petty driving experience used to be. So you have to walk from the parking lot to the Ticket and Transportation Center. The walk is the walk. It's kind of crummy. But it is what it is. Before you reach the area where you would normally catch the trams, they take your temperature, make sure you're okay, and then you pass through the newfangled scanning machines, which are so much better than the bag check. This is something that I've experienced now at other amusement parks and Disney. So I'm glad that everybody's stepping up with the technology and making it easier for everybody.
One thing that I did notice when I was there with the bag screening, they did randomly pull people over to do a bag check. And usually what it was, we started hearing announcements that if you had something metal that was larger, like a battery power pack or a water bottle that's metal, to hold it up as you're walking through so that they could see it and they knew what was setting off the scanner. So if you did that, you usually got right through. And umbrellas were another.
Yeah, the umbrella is the only thing that the security gentleman suggested to the crowds while I was there. So I hopped on the monorail, which is now divvied up with plastic barriers, and of course stickers on the ground marking 6 feet and numbers associating where you are supposed to go in each monorail car. Each row of the monorail has a spot for 2 groups. And you are only to go to your spot and sit. You're not allowed to stand, you're not allowed to visit. Even if you know the other people, you go to the little cubby area where your number is and you sit there till you get to the Magic Kingdom, and then you're allowed to get off.
Did you have to go through the screening then again at Magic Kingdom?
No, I did not. It was straight down to the tap style and touched my band and it turned green and they said, welcome back. And it was all happy. So.
One other thing that I noticed when we were scanning in, because I added my DVC membership to my Disney Experience account, mine turned green and purple.
Well, some of us aren't lucky enough to be DVC, so sorry.
But the reason I noticed it is Bill did not have his linked up, so his only turned green, and so I asked a cast member, of course. And then what did you experience when you got into Magic Kingdom?
First I just kind of poked around and looked at stuff. It was evening, 5:30ish or so. There was a line to get into the Emporium that went down the main street towards the castle, almost all the way to Casey's. I wasn't there to shop. I was there to experience stuff. So I went and took pictures of the castle since they painted it. I went to the Haunted Mansion to start with. And it was walk on. They cut the stretching room scene, so you literally walk straight through the queue onto the Omnimover. I have some vision issues, so the light change is hard, and I ran into the wall a couple times. Felt like an idiot, but whatever. Peter Pan's Flight, Winnie the Pooh, Barnstormer. What else did I go on? And Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. I went on all those. The only thing that had a line was Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. It said 20 minutes or 40 minutes. It was about 20 minutes. And one thing that I noticed was all the e-ticket attractions had their Fast Pass return time clocks on, but you couldn't get a Fast Pass. So I don't know if it's just something that they're turning on to get reused to, if they're going to try something, or if they didn't turn them off correctly.
My understanding is they're using those queues for the VIP tours and the disability access. And so the return time is the disability access return time.
That would make sense.
Yeah, we don't anticipate that fast passes, at least the way fast passes have been, will be back anytime soon. How was the ride capacity, and how did they handle social distancing on the rides?
Things like Haunted Mansion, Winnie the Pooh, each party got their own vehicle. For Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, they were utilizing every other row. And so they would not need to shut down the ride for immense amounts of time for cleaning. When it was time to clean it, they would alternate the rows and switch the passengers from, like, instead of being in row 1, they would go to row 2, clean row 1 and let it run through a few times, and then they'd switch so that they would start loading row 1 and clean row 2 and let it run through. So it minimized the wait time for cleaning.
Okay. And then I'm assuming after that, since there was no parade or fireworks, you headed over to the resort?
Yes, I was hungry, so I was going to try to figure out something for dinner. And I was not on the ball enough to plan ahead and do mobile order inside the Magic Kingdom. Not that I'm a big fan of any of their food, but as soon as I walked through the exit gate, I'm like, oh, wait, they just finished the walking path to the Grand Floridian. Let's go take a look. An hour and a half later, I wound up back at my car. It's a nice stroll, not crowded, very socially distant from everybody, but not something I'd want to do in the rain or if I was in a hurry, that's for sure. The electric light pageant was going on in Seven Seas Lagoon, so I did have something to look at and listen to while I was walking.
So what'd you do about dinner if you didn't get something in Magic Kingdom?
I ended up going to Panda Express over by Animal Kingdom because that's my normal part of town that I eat at, so I know it better. And I needed to go to get food supplies for the room because I like Diet Pepsi, not Diet Coke, and I like snack food, so I'm a snacker.
And then this time was your first time staying at Art of Animation. How was
Oh, yeah. I've been to Art of Animation a multitude of times to check out the aesthetic and landscape of flavors and stuff like that. But this is my first time actually staying in a room at the resort. Um, Finding my room, dragging all my luggage, because of course, why park and make multiple trips when you can load yourself up like a pack mule and haul everything all over the place. Very well themed, but you got to find your way through the theming that gets to your room. And it was very, very aerial. Definitely felt underwater going in my room, which was very warming and welcoming and made me happy that I was at Disney.
So, in the reason why you were staying at Art of Animation was for the first time since Art of Animation opened, the Little Mermaid rooms had a discount. First time ever. So,
And I have an excellent travel agent who looks out for me for stuff like that. So you should get one. If you don't have one, I know one.
So what was your experience when you went into the room, as far as, did you notice anything that was different from normal arrival into a room that would be attributed to COVID?
The only thing that caught my eye right away was a little sign saying everything that they had done to clean it extra special, and that the remote control was in a plastic bag. Everything else looked spotless and clean, so I didn't have any need or desire to go hunting and searching for their protocols to make sure that they were above spec. So,
Did you know when you were planning the trip that you were not going to have housekeeping service every day?
I did,
And
but
how did that work for you?
It worked fine. It was basically trash and towel service every other day. So I didn't get my bed made or sheets changed, but on every second day, they'd empty the trash cans and bring fresh towels. Staying solo, I didn't go through all the towels and I didn't fill up all the garbage cans. So, and I'm not that messy. I might be cluttered sometimes, but I'm not that dirty. So,
I have heard from some other travel advisors that they've had experiences where they've been staying for a longer stay and they wanted to get their sheets changed and they would not change them for them. So that's something, if that's important to you, I believe they were willing to leave the sheets for the guest, but they would not do the changing of the sheets during the stay. It's just towels and garbage right now. And in the DVC units, paying with points, I'm not sure if this would change anything. Normally, they did collect our garbage daily, which was kind of, I kind of expected it, but I didn't expect them to not do there was something with the towels that was kind of weird when we were at the DVC unit, because I was expecting it like every fourth day, and on the second day they asked us if we needed towels, and it was a little confusing as to what was going on. Let's take a quick break and go over to see some photos that Todd had sent to me. And Todd, I'll ask you to tell us what these photos are.
I got to be in spot number 21 on the monorail. I had the monorail all to myself, but that was my spot. So that's where they told me I had to go and no place else.
And those are the round stickers you were talking about being everywhere.
Correct. And there's signage everywhere in case you don't hear what the cast member says. You should be able to read it someplace because they want to make sure everyone is safe. So they're super repetitive.
And this is obviously
That's
going into your monorail.
Yep. Half the row with a little curved wall. It looks like a flying buttress if you were to look over top of it. In line at the Haunted Mansion and a lot of other attractions, they've installed these metal and plexiglass barriers between the queues to help when you cannot easily attain a 6-foot distance. They put a wall in between you just in case. And you can see one of the stickers there on the other side of the wall is a stand here. My assortment of masks for the weekend, because you can never have too many and you always have to accessorize.
And this one
properly.
up here, Todd needs to tell us all where he got.
I meant to grab the link so I could share that with the meeting tonight. We'll have to figure out a way.
And this looks like a Skyliner shot.
That is a Skyliner because that would take us to Friday morning. And Friday afternoon. The only cavalcade-ish thing that I got to see was some princesses riding by in a carriage rather quickly. I found this kind of unique in the Millennium Showplace, or depending on what time frame you're in, it gets called different things. The big festival tent behind the United Kingdom. They were having live performers, and this woman was a pole dancer, a Disney pole dancer. And on the ground around the stage, they had dots for you to sit or stand and to observe the performance. So that's me riding in the row by myself because they just sprayed the row in front of me. Yeah. Trip and I did make it over to Earl of Sandwich because we were hungry. And they closed the Earl of Sandwich at my airport, so we needed some food. This goes into detail and is in the room about what they clean and how they're taking extra precautions. Like I said, the only thing that I could readily notice was that the remote was in a plastic bag.
I just have a weird question. Did you take it out of the plastic bag then?
Yes. And then I wiped it down with a thing.
Left mine in the plastic bag.
I can see both ways. The table is very nicely themed, but it bugs me because with it not super bright, I kept losing things on the table. So for photos, people kept trying to take their masks off, whether it was taking their own photos or with photo pass photographers, and cast members, before they even got it unhooked off their ear or lowered beneath their nose, they were politely reminding them that they need to keep their face covered at all times for their safety and everyone else's. And just like everywhere else, there's a blue dot for you to stand on where you're supposed to be.
Okay, I'll go back to the full screen. All right. So that was Thursday. And then Friday, you headed over to Hollywood Studios.
Yep.
Did you get on Rise of the Resistance?
Yes, I did. I
Oh.
like the new boarding procedure where you can get a boarding group from anywhere in the area starting at 7 a.m. They go quick. I wound up being boarding group 66, which I felt was kind of late, but not much you can do about it. So I then showered and hopped on the Skyliner with Trip. The Skyliner was very similar to the monorail in the fact that there was the spacing in the line, and they assigned one group per Skyliner cabin. Seeing it how it was just me, I got my own car, so it was nice. I went early, expecting to stand outside for rope drop outside the gate. However, they were already letting people in when I got there before 8:30. So I walked right on to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which was my ultimate goal for this trip, was to go on that for the first time. That was not even a stop and wait to board. It was walking straight on. They were utilizing every row in that attraction as well as Rise of the Resistance. But in between each of the rows, they put a plexiglass windshield, which if you're sitting behind it, you get reflection and it kind of not the best, but you still get to experience it and it's fun. It was cute. I'm glad that they put something Disney in there instead of rehashing old movies and leaving it be for 20 years.
And how was the rest of the experience at Hollywood Studios with the lines and the rides?
After the railway, I went over to Toy Story Land because I figured, hey, might as well see what the lines were like. Did all three attractions there, walked through Galaxy's Edge, and was back at the room before 10 o'clock with my breakfast from Landscape of Flavors.
Wow.
So everybody tell you that there's no wait. There is very little wait for most things, including transportation right now.
Did that change any over the weekend? Or was it that way too?
It got slightly increased wait times into the weekend, but not bad. There were like maybe 2 or 3 more people in line, not hours longer or even quarter hours longer, just a minute or 2. So.
Okay. So then you went back to Rise of the Resistance. You with boarding group, you said 66?
Yep.
How did that, what timing, what was that?
That wound up being about 12:30, 12:40 that I scanned in. They called my group a little bit before that, but I wasn't quite back to Galaxy's Edge yet. So they had every part of the line open with the stickers marking 6 foot. And it was pretty much just a hop from line to line to line to line. And that was the waiting, was 5 seconds at each line. There was no long stand there and wait for the next people to move. Nope, it was slowly plod along.
I'd rather do that than stand and wait forever.
Yeah, especially when you get farther in there and it's all rocky and there's no place to be comfortable. Yeah.
With the changes to the rides to accommodate for social distancing, how much did that really affect the experience for you?
For both Rise of Resistance and Mickey's and Minnie's Runaway Railway, I was behind that plexiglass windshield. So I did have glare from that. If this would have been my first time on Rise of the Resistance, I would have felt cheated, but I've been on it quite a few times since it opened for AP previews. And I know I'll be back to the railway soon enough. It's there for the good. It doesn't destroy it. It just sometimes can be a little inconvenient.
Okay. All right.
I also went on Smuggler's Run after Rise of the Resistance. And in Smuggler's Run, there's 6 seats, and they have it split up so the front 4 are for one group, and the back 2 are for a second group. The plexiglass goes from the floor to the ceiling with a little archway for you to pass through. So you can see everything fine. However, it does make it more echoey. So if the rest of your crew are screamers, even if they're in the other party, bring your earplugs. Also, if you're a party of 1 or 2, you're probably going to get stuck in the back being an engineer and not get to be a pilot or a gunner, which can be unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. So you were there after they restarted the park hopping. And so on Saturday, you took advantage of the park hopping?
Yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about how that worked? Because it's not like the old days where you can just decide in the morning where you want to go and then in the afternoon go somewhere else, or 10 times a day go somewhere else.
You have to go to the park that you make your park reservation at, whether it's park opening or whenever. After you've gone to that park, if it's past 2 o'clock, you can then hop to another park, assuming there's capacity. There was no issues while I was there with capacity at any park, so it didn't stop me.
How did you find out about the capacity?
I asked before I left if it was open, and they went on their little iPad thing and said yes.
Okay. Because
were they lying to me? They could have been.
It's supposed to change in the near future, where you'll be able to go on your app and see which parks are available at park hopping time. That hasn't quite rolled out yet. So I wasn't sure how they were notifying people where to go, so you don't go over to a park and find out you can't get in.
I took this guy over to Epcot because it's festival time, and where else do you go during a festival besides Epcot, especially if you're addicted to food. Festival of the Arts is up and coming in one of my favorite festivals. Not as crowded. The food site portions are big enough that it's worth the money that you're spending. worth the money you're spending. Unlike food and wine, where they keep making the portions smaller and smaller and charging more and more. Not that I'm bitter. Um, you could tell that I was not the only one with the idea of let's park hop to Epcot at 2:00, because a lot of other people did too. But even so, it did not feel crowded at all. It felt like it was an after party for a race event or a hard ticket event like Not So Scary in the beginning of September.
How are the rides over there too? Same situation, not much of a wait.
Correct. Soren, I walked up and had to wait for Patrick to give me the chief flight attendant safety spiel, and then I got loaded on. So normally 300-minute wait or whatever, I can deal with a 3-minute safety spiel.
How did you do any shopping at Epcot?
I did go to Mouse Gears.
Now, Mouse Gears has moved temporarily.
Yes, Mouse Gears is now where Innovations East used to be, over by where Guardians of the Galaxy will be. Future World is a labyrinth of construction walls and craziness to try to get through. But there's big signage that helps you know where you're supposed to go, but it's still much further than you would normally have to walk. There was a cast member at the entrance and at the exit greeting and saying thank you when you walked in or out. And they also were using their iPad to click the number of people that were in the store or the number of people that were exiting the store. So they had an idea so they didn't overcrowd for square footage.
And that also explains the line over at the Emporium the day before.
Right.
Okay. And then when you finished the day at Epcot, you took the Skyliner back. How is the Skyliner working for those who are staying in the Pop Century, Art of Animation, Caribbean Beach, and Riviera? I mean, do you find it efficient versus taking the bus, or?
Unabashedly, yes. I was a fan of the Skyliner before, but especially now where it's your own party gets your own gondola, I still like it. At Park Close, the line went from International Gateway, snaked around back and forth and up the hill back over towards Beach Club. It was socially distanced, so 6 foot apart. It took less than a half hour, and I was at the transfer station at Caribbean Beach, ready to go to the next leg of the journey. So the line moved super quick, super efficient. The cast members knew what they were doing and were helpful in explaining to people what they should be doing.
Saturday, you ventured off of Disney property. How did that go?
It was different. A local friend of mine texted me and asked me if I wanted to go to brunch, and I'm always one for food. You never say no to food. He lives downtown in the Ivanhoe district of Orlando proper. And I wanted to also see what life was like outside of the Disney bubble and not just like Walmart and Panda Express that are on the fringe. Um, Downtown Orlando has a lot of the same things, signs on all the doors that say you have to wear a mask and socially distance, and everybody was. The menu at the place we had brunch was reduced. The server told us as such when we sat down. She apologized. Not much she could do about it, not much we could do about it. Food was still great. Service was exceptional. There were a fair number of businesses, tourist businesses between Disney and downtown that you could tell have shuttered their doors, whether it be temporary or permanent, I'm not sure. But it was definitely less crowded, and it was evident that there were no tourists to support the economy, which was sad.
Did you feel as safe off of Disney property as you did on Disney property?
Honestly, no. On Disney property, I trusted that I knew what I was doing for my health and safety, and the people around me shared those same thoughts, and the cast members all shared those same thoughts, and we were all working towards the same goal, and we all knew that. While it was my experience that the people around me were doing that in the greater Orlando area, I'm not sure that I felt as sure and as safe and as confident in them as I did at Disney. And to some aspect, at the airport going home, that was the same case.
Anything else you want to add about Saturday?
I'm reached a point in my life where it's hard to sleep on a couch under an air conditioner with not enough blankets. But it's still better than drinking and driving. So.
And then Sunday you headed over to Animal Kingdom.
Yes.
How was that?
It was not surface of the sun hot, so it was very good. I was meeting a friend of Toad, Regina, and her husband, Gary, for drinks. That was my other highlight of the trip, besides the Runaway Railway. Got to try out Nomad Lounge. I got a light up drink thing because I'm a gimmicky guy. That was the only time that I went and ate inside someplace at Disney. We did not have reservations ahead of time. We did a walk up, if you're ready kind of thing, wait for table. I don't remember what they call it. All the tables are spaced well apart. The servers had a face mask on and a face shield. He was very cautious when he approached the table. He was very deliberate in his movements and tried to stay as far out of our personal space as possible, but still providing the guest service that he needed in order to make us happy and give us good food and drinks. We then went on the safari, which I didn't give you pictures of the baby giraffes. They were so cute. 3-month-old giraffes. They're about 8 foot tall. That's the baby. A big baby, but it's a baby. They're so cute. instead of having a plexiglass windshield between the rows, they have a heavy duty clear shower curtain, for lack of a better term. Same thing with living at the Land at Epcot. I expected that to be more of a hindrance. There was no residual cleaning product or haze or scratch or anything on it. It was easy to see through. There was no glare or reflection. And the animals were out and happy, and each group got their own row. The driver never talked so fast in my life. She went 100 miles an hour with her mouth, about 3 miles an hour on the gas pedal, which was perfect for me. More time for pictures of the animals. I then went to Flight of Passage in Pandora. Once again, 40-minute wait, but it was a hop from waiting line, spacing line to spacing line till you got to the safety spiel. They told you to go stand on a dot and then go ride an Ikran. There is no divider between the Banshees anymore. Because they were not busy, they were trying to space out and put an empty Banshee in between parties, which is good, better than nothing, I guess. Of the things at Disney that I did, that was the time that I felt the least safe and least confident in the fact that everything was conforming.
Was that because you didn't have the barriers between you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's there's a lot of wind blowing, and I just felt germy flying-ish could happen.
And then you probably don't want to know that they are eliminating the empty ecran between people because of the amount of time that you're actually on the ride. It's less time than what the CDC requires. So, so if that already was making you feel a little uncomfortable, it probably will be more so coming up. And then you went and headed over to Epcot so that you could show off that beautiful mask that you have.
Yeah, which is in the other room, and it's not charged, so I can't show it to you tonight. I'm sorry.
If you guys didn't see the live feed, you got to check it out. I think I shared it, and it's also shared on Toad Gives Back wall. He had a light up mask that changed colors. Everybody needs one of those.
It was festival of the arts. It was trying to be artistic and light and fun and
Did you drive over to
themed.
Epcot for that, or did you take a bus?
I drove because I was at Animal Kingdom when they were closing, and I didn't want to have to fight with the hassle of trying to get back to an empty park to get my car. I did a little bit of shopping at Epcot, bought some awesome pins because I'm addicted to pins and food. Did the live stream, and then went to Disney Springs. And I know I have to apologize. I said in the live stream that I was going to take the Disney bus to see what it was like. But when I got back to the resort, it was going to be 45 minutes before the next bus came. And I did some mental math in my head. And if I would have waited for that, everything would have been closed for me to eat dinner. So I drove.
And how was Disney Springs?
Roving teenagers going in were trying to be non-compliant with wearing facial covering, but the cast members were a little bit more aggressive in reminding them that they needed to cover their faces. This was all prior to security. Once we were inside, everybody adhered to the rules and kept their face coverings on. So.
And you got checked for temperature again there, correct?
Yep. Second floor of the parking structure, they scan your forehead, you walk through the screening device, which of course I set off because my kilt had lots of metal on it and I confused the man, but
Because
whatever.
you were wearing a kilt?
Because I was wearing a kilt.
That how is the social distancing at Disney Springs?
In the outdoor venues, outdoor areas, it was very good. In the stores, people kind of forgot, especially World of Disney. It was typical World of Disney, overrun with people clamoring over each other, trying to get stuff and not paying attention to anybody else but themselves. But you would see every once in a while, they'd be like, oh, wait a second. And they'd back up and then they'd be patient and wait, and then they get whatever they want. So I think everyone is still in a learning curve, or at least I'll chalk it up to that.
Okay. And then unfortunately, the next day you had to head home.
That I did.
So as I understand it, the bag check is not available at the resort for early online check-in or onboard check-in for your flights. And you had a car, so I'm assuming you took your luggage with you. Well, you would have had to. How did things go at the airport on the way home?
The lines to check bags for every airline were astronomical, not just mine. I dropped my wallet after I had gone through security. Thankfully, there are decent people left in the world, because he handed it back to me with all my credit cards and cash still in it. So that was definite plus. I did get, for both flights down and back, I had the window seat and the middle seat, just because the seats were cheap, and for $20 extra each way, I can have a little bit of peace of mind. The lady who had the aisle seat tried to move her boyfriend over, and I was like, that's my seat. Please don't take it. And she got upset and moved to the back of the plane. But that's her problem, not mine.
So you did also mention to me that you had temperature screening at the airports. Where was that? Was that before security, after security?
That the only place that I was screened was at the gate prior to boarding, when they were scanning your boarding pass.
Okay.
That was Frontier's protocol. I'm not sure what other airlines are currently practicing.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't have that experience on Delta. Kathy, you're waving your head now. Who did you fly with?
JetBlue.
Okay. Okay, anything else that you want to add about the experience?
I had a prop. Where did it go? There it is. I waited until I went to Disney World because I was going to buy Disney masks because the 40 that I brought weren't enough. There's much more variety on shopdisney.com than I could find on property in total. A lot of them duplicated, but it was still more variety available online.
Now, you're an annual pass holder. And so Photo Pass comes with that. But right now, they do have a Photo Pass special that if you buy a Photo Pass package, you can use it. I'd have to look up the dates. I should have done that before this, but you can use it on multiple trips. You're not limited to the 45 days with the purchase right now. Did you find that PhotoPass photographers were not as prevalent as normal, or did you still find, would you still find value if you were paying for PhotoPass?
There were PhotoPass photographers in all the standard photo places, and the same number that I'm used to seeing. There is not the long lines of people waiting to get their photos. I don't know if that's because you have to keep your mask on and people can't be seen in their photos smiling. I was smiling under my mask. I'm goofy, I guess. But the PhotoPass photographers can no longer take and touch your phone or your camera. They can only use theirs. So that might be another reason why there's fewer people in line for PhotoPass photography right now.
And that might also be why Disney has the promotion, so that you feel like you're getting the value of it, because you can use it on multiple trips if you're going often. One of the big things that clients coming to us thinking about going on a Disney trip keep saying is they don't want to go because there's no magic there. It's the magic is not the way it was. It's not Disney the way that I remember it. What would your response to that be?
I would say that the magic is still there. It might be slightly different, but it's still there. I take advantage of PhotoPass with characters a lot because I travel solo, and it's a way that I can share with my nieces and nephews and make them jealous because I'm that kind of uncle. Plus, I'm still a kid, at heart at least. That part isn't available right now, but you can still have interactions with characters and the frontline cast members, whether it's ticketing or merchantainment or attractions. They're going above and beyond and being as welcoming and friendly and making you feel appreciated and valued as they can, because they love being there doing their thing at Disney, and they can't do it without us being there. So they want to let us know they're happy that we're there.
If you had never been to Disney before and were planning your first trip there, is this a time that you would plan to go? If you felt comfortable traveling and with the restrictions that are out there, if that wasn't an issue to you, would you feel comfortable as a new first time Disney traveler to go and see the parks?
Funny you should ask, because we're discussing taking my 7-year-old nephew for the first time. I'm not sure. If it was my once in a lifetime trip and I would never have a chance to go again, I don't know that now would be the best time to go. Enough of the magic is still there that it would be worth it to go, but maybe not if it's the only time you're ever going to go. Like if all of a sudden I had tickets to Shanghai for next week and this was my one chance, I would go, but it would be different.
Okay.
And that is a little heads up to my travel agent that, 7-year-old needs a ticket. So,
All right.
and accommodations.
We'll talk.
Okay.
I don't have anything else for you. Do you have anything else you want to add? Otherwise, we can open it up for questions from anyone.
My cousin asked me about the pool because her kid likes to swim. It was warm by Michigan standards when I was there, but not by Florida standards. So nobody was in the pool. The lifeguard was at the big blue pool and he was wearing a mask, but there were nobody in the pool. The playthings and like Winnie the Pooh and the Casey Jr. water feature in, it's not New Fantasyland, but next to New Fantasyland, stuff like that inside the park were roped off and you couldn't play with them. But the playscape things at the resorts were totally open and kids could play on them at will. So
I know when we were there at the beginning of December, and it was quite cool one morning. All the lifeguards were there, all bundled up with their masks on. Anybody at the pool, in the pool, did not have to wear a mask, and to get to the pool, you did have to wear one. We did manage to make it to the hot tub a few times, but because we're from the north, you have to do that in the winter. All right, well, does anybody have any questions for Todd? Feel free to unmute yourselves.
Hey, Todd, for your flights, were they crowded? Was it a full plane?
I would say it was about 75% full. Which every other time I've flown Frontier from Detroit to Orlando, it's been 100% full because it's a budget airline and everybody wants to go to Disney. There was no extra spacing noticeable on the airline's part, but I think passengers did it on their own.
And they weren't blocking the middle aisle then?
Nope. That's why I coughed up the extra $20 each way for the center seat and said, I'm going to do it myself.
Kathy, was JetBlue still blocking?
When I flew at Christmas, yes, but they were supposed to be stopping it.
I understand that Delta is continuing that until it's like May or June, if I remember right.
I took American on the way down and Southwest on the way back, and neither were blocking the middle seat. Luckily on Southwest, which really surprised me because every time I flew them, it's always been full. On the way home, we all got to have the middle seat empty. American was booked and they were looking for volunteers to bump on the way down, which really kind of shocked me, but I felt pretty safe. I mean, everybody was very good about, they did not serve anything, no water on that one. Southwest, they did, but on American, since it was totally booked, they did not serve water or anything. But they let you know ahead of time, not when we got on the plane.
Do they let you bring your own on board?
Yes.
Okay. That was one thing I liked about Delta. They handed out little bags with a bottle of water, some crackers and cookies, and then some Purell, an individual Purell. But they put it in a plastic bag, so then we could give them the plastic bag and throw it away.
Of an additional 100, we should have 600 million doses of vaccine for the two.
I have a question for Todd.
Uh-huh.
It has to do with your 7-year-old nephew. Now, honestly, if a 7-year-old has never been to Disney, I guess it's not a question, it's a comment. If a 7-year-old has never been to Disney, I think they'd still be in awe and agog and just thrilled to be down there. Honestly, they wouldn't know the difference. I think the ones of us that have been down there many times, we feel it. But honestly, for a 7-year-old that's never been there, they'd probably just. That's my.
I can see Todd's point. He's going to bring his 7-year-old nephew down there. But if you're a family that's you're not sure if you're ever going to be able to go to Disney again, then maybe you want to wait. And one thing we have been telling people as well is if you're not comfortable wearing a mask in public, don't plan on going to Disney this year. And not just for the next 6 months. This whole year, we anticipate that masks will be part of a Disney experience.
I get that.
I'll tell you, in December, I really felt the magic, especially like Epcot. We must have seen 4 or 5 cavalcades. Santa Claus came by when we were sitting at Spice Road table and he shouted, "That's my favorite restaurant." I mean, we saw so many cavalcades. Like in the Magic Kingdom, I saw the wooden soldiers, and I don't know. But then I'm a Disney freak, so to me, it's always magic when I'm there.
Well, and that's the big thing is it is different, but it's
is.
not necessarily bad. It's just different. So if you are expecting it to be the same way that it always has been for you, it's not going to be the same.
No.
I don't really like watching parades because I don't like to stand around and wait for them to start and have people pushing and trying to butt in front of you and yelling at you because you're in the handicap section. But this was nice because I saw more parade type things when we were there than I ever have.
Mhm.
And the distancing in the lines, I actually kind of like that because you don't have people pushing and standing on top of you all the time. The length of the lines is a little annoying because it feels like when you see how long that line is, it feels like it's going to be forever. But when you're constantly moving, it's like traffic. I would rather be moving in traffic, even if it takes me an extra 10 minutes to get somewhere, than to be in stop and go traffic.
Yeah. And I think, like the first week of December is big for DVC. So while I was there, I thought that the times were long, but they never were really that long. Like I told Todd, I said, Soren said 50 minutes and I put my stopwatch on and it was 11 minutes and we were on the ride, so Pandora said 50 minutes and we were on the ride at 30. So, it sounded really bad, but we were constantly moving, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
I know in the Brazilian area, I think there's only one engagement. That also seems.
Can I ask you I have still not done Rise of the Resistance because when I was there in December, we only had 3 days and we decided not to go to Hollywood. When I was there in February, it was for a wedding, so I just didn't have the time. How does it work doing it from your room now? You do it on the app, correct?
Correct.
In a test tube, there appears to be.
In your home screen on My
Mhm.
Disney Experience,
Okay.
you go into virtual queues and then select Rise of the Resistance boarding group or join virtual queue, I believe.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
unlike before where you actually had to be inside the tap styles, it's so much nicer. I can still be in my PJs. I don't need to be in a swarm of people all fighting for the same Wi-Fi signal. We're spread out a little bit. So
Okay, I'm going in April, so I'm hoping this time will be the time I get to do it.
you should.
Okay,
And if you are not able to get it at 7 a.m. in your room,
mhm.
then at 1 p.m. you can try it again.
In the park,
And
though,
in the
correct?
park. Well,
Okay.
you have to have checked into the park. You don't need to be in the park when you do it at 1 p.m., but you have to have already been to that
In the
park.
park, okay, thank you.
Um,
You need to have a park reservation for the studios for that day.
Right,
Yes.
of course.
Yes,
sure.
so that
Yeah,
way,
absolutely.
the way that they've set it up, so if you were park hopping and you decided you were gonna go to Magic Kingdom in the morning and go to Studios in the afternoon, you are not eligible to get Rise of the Resistance. You can
Gotcha.
only get it is if you have registered for Hollywood Studios for that day.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's also why they moved the time that you can do the second round to 1 o'clock instead of 2 o'clock, because with park hopping, you can't start park hopping until 2 o'clock. And I think people probably were thinking, I'd be at Hollywood Studios right at 2 o'clock, check in and get that. And they wanted it to be fair for those who did register for that park. And the park hopping, the interesting thing about park hopping, and I know we mentioned it before, you do have to go to the first park no matter what. So if you decide you're going to Magic Kingdom in the morning and Epcot in the afternoon, and you get up in the morning and it's raining or it's a beautiful day and you want to go hang out at the pool, or you want to go downtown Orlando and go to brunch instead, in order to go to another park at all, you must go into the park you registered for. You could try and change your reservations to another park, but the park you register for, you have to check into in order to do it. That's the one thing that I'm not real fond of for park hopping, because I was one of the types of people who I would go out to the bus stop and play bus roulette and go to
Yeah,
park the bus came for first. So that makes that a little challenging.
Yeah.
And fast passes, honestly, for me, were always challenging for the same reason.
Tracy, have you heard anything, well, of course, the rumors are out there, about Fast Passes going to a paid version like Universal, possibly being a perk for on-site people?
I haven't heard that it's going to be a pay version. I haven't heard that it hasn't either. What I
Mhm.
have heard is that they are working on a way to be able to bring back some form of fast passes. Right now, with the social distancing, they need portions of those fast pass lines
Right.
in order to be able to do the social distancing. And so that's a big part of the reason that fast passes aren't there. We've also been told that we will likely see a lot of changes this year. It's important to note that a lot of them are because of COVID and getting back to normal. So things will be changing, and what we see may not be the final version.
Mhm.
So, I mean, we all heard that Magical Express is going away as of next year. There will be something to get you to the parks. They're not just abandoning that altogether and saying you have to figure it all out on your own. But what that's going to be, we don't have a clear picture of that yet.
Well,
Uh,
I'm sorry. Universal is still doing their Universal Express, correct? Does anybody know?
You mean the transfers or
No,
the fast
if
pass?
you're staying in the hotel, you get to do like a fast pass, basically.
I think they are. I'm not 100% sure on that. But I know that they have had several of their hotels close just to reduce how many people are there.
Mhm.
I think at least 2 of them have closed
Yeah. And
temporarily.
I know they're lesser, they're cheaper hotels don't give you that Universal Express either.
Yeah, and the express you can purchase.
Mhm.
We've looked sometimes when booking clients there, if it makes sense to go to a cheap resort and add the express pass, or stay in, I think, no, not Sapphire, Pacific, Royal Pacific is usually the lowest priced one that does include the express pass.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's a toss up, and so staying a little bit closer and getting the express pass is worth it.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
their express pass, you do have to buy per day,
Yes.
and it is
It
date
depends
price
on,
as
and it
well.
depends on time, what time of year it is too, how
Yeah.
much each day is, yeah.
Yeah, and it depends what day of the week it is, because
Mhm.
when you look at the pricing, when we're adding it to a package, you have to say which days you want it, and then there's a price, and then you have to add the one for the other days. You can't just say, I want a 4-day express pass.
Mhm.
I want it this day and it's this price, and this day and it's this price, so.
Thank you.
Mhm. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Oh, Todd, one thing I remember you saying on your live was about how you had to wait for the bottle of water.
Oh, yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah. Mobile Order and I didn't get along too well this trip. Just because I'm not that type of planner, I guess is the best way. But to explain what Janice was talking about, I wanted a bottle of water and a bottle of Diet Coke when I was going to Animal Kingdom, and I stopped in the gift shop at Art of Animation, and they didn't have anything. You had to get it through the quick service location, and you can only do that through mobile order. So, okay, I pull out my phone, I order it. It took about 15 to 20 minutes before it popped up and said that my order was ready for pickup. I can understand the need to space people out and do what they need to do, but that's a little excessive for 2 bottles of water or 2 bottles of drinks. Another side note, rant, they don't have enough Powerade Zero either. Regular Powerade all over the place, but not all of us can have the sugar, so.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.